Today on Gunbelievable, we're taking a look at the PKO-45 from Heizer Defense. It's supposed to be the slimmest .45 caliber pistol on the market at just 0.8 inches thick, making it good for concealed carry. But it's also tiny and blowback operated. Tiny blowback guns like this Walther PPK-S have a bad rep for being snappy and painful to shoot, and they usually fire 380. This fires 45 ACP. Sounds like a terrible idea, but I had to know for myself. Since this gun was first announced in late 2015, it's been seen at a couple SHOT shows and in some industry puff pieces, but there's no in-depth critical coverage of it anywhere. Let's fix that. Picking this thing up, the first thing you'll notice is how heavy it is. This thing is solid. It feels like a brick. When fully loaded with the smaller 5-round magazine, it weighs 32.8 ounces. I have another gun that weighs 32.8 ounces fully loaded, and that's this Glock 19, which is way bigger, holds 15 in the magazine, 3 times more, and it has a red dot on top. So to say the PKO-45 is dense is putting it mildly. Size-wise, it's small. It's about the size of a Glock 43, a little more bulbous, but it's also a 1/4 inch thinner. It's a bit big for pocket carry, but if you have cargo pockets, I guess it's possible. However, it weighs so much that you're gonna have visible sagging. Moving on to the grip, it's big enough to give you purchase, and it doesn't feel quite as thin as it is. It doesn't feel twisty in the way some other ultra-thin handguns do. It's smooth, but not slippery. Definitely not the most form-fitting, ergonomic shape in the world, but for what it is, it's alright. I do kinda like the way the semi-beaver tail rests on top of the hand. When I first saw the back of the slide, I wondered if this silver piece was the hammer, kinda like on the Boberg/Bond Arms bullpup pistols, but nope, just a fixed blade. Despite the hex head screws and roll pins everywhere, a bit of a Kel-Tec aesthetic going on, the build quality is quite good. The mag release button travels smoothly, mags pop free, the slide glides really smoothly, good machining, nice big serrations and wings at the back to help you manipulate it, which are necessary because the spring in this thing is quite stiff. Usually is on a blowback gun, but it's even more necessary in 45. Your slide lock is here. It's low profile, which means it won't snag, but also means it's hard to actuate. I put a little grease on the rear angled surface there that catches the slide, and that's made it easier to drop the slide on a new mag. There's a safety on the side, which is ambidextrous and prominent enough to be easy to swipe down, but not so much that it might catch on clothes. Unfortunately, it's the only ambi thing on this gun. The slide lock isn't, and the mag release is neither ambi nor reversible. On the right-hand side, the extractor doubles as a loaded chamber indicator, which works fine. Unusually, there's a grip safety, and it's in the front. You don't see many of those. The spring on it is not stiff, but it's just a little more springy than you might expect. I'll come back to that. The trigger looks like a 1911, but it doesn't pull straight back. It pivots from the top. A little bit of take up before the wall. Brake is somewhat crisp, but you'll feel it creep a bit if you pull slowly or pay attention. It's probably 6 pounds-ish. Not much over travel. Good reset, short and audible, takes you right back to the wall. There's an accessory rail at the front, but it's proprietary, and I don't think anything was ever made that was compatible with it. Sights are basic fiber optics, red in back, green in front. I'm not sure what kind of dovetail this is for the sights, but it looks like a 1911 cut of some kind. If you do replace the sights, you'll want to be careful, because the manual specifies that this gun takes special sights that are spelled S-I-T-E, not S-I-G-H-T. No way to mount an optic, slide is far too thin for that, but if you figure out what the dovetail cut is, you might be able to get one of those adapter plates that replaces the rear sight with a red dot mount. You get 2 magazines, a flush-fitting 5-rounder and an extended 7-rounder, and I'm guessing there's some other manufacturers' 1911 magazines, either cut short or with a sleeve added on. Build quality here is less impressive. This sleeve flapping around loose is really low effort. As soon as you drop this mag on the ground, that sleeve might go flying somewhere, you'll never get it again. And these capacities are not good. This Glock 43 has a tiny mag extension on it, but it's still about equal in size to the Heizer, yet this gun holds a total of 9 rounds compared to the Heizer's 6. A SIG P365 has the same footprint, but holds even more at 11 total. Stepping up to the 7-round magazine, it makes the grip way longer, and the grip is often the most difficult part of the gun to conceal. Disassembly of the PKO-45 is pretty easy. Verify it's empty, of course, then turn the pin and remove it. As soon as you pull it out all the way, the recoil spring guide above the barrel is going to want to fly out, so I'll prevent that by pointing the gun down against the table while I do this. Slide comes right off, and you're done. The fixed barrel is a clue that mechanically, it's straight blowback. There is nothing keeping the breech closed except the slide's mass and the spring. Very uncommon in 45 ACP pistols, especially so in a gun this small. It's also unusual how the recoil spring is placed above the barrel, but other than that, this is exactly what you'd expect from an internal hammer-fired blowback pistol. Reassembly is the same in reverse. Just put the slide back on, insert the recoil spring at its guide rod, push the pin through, rotate into place. Shooting the PKO-45 was a real surprise. Compact, blowback 45, it should be the meanest, nastiest, snappiest pocket rocket, and it just wasn't. It's punchy for sure, but I was thinking I'd be sick of it after about 5 rounds, and it ended up being more like 50. I'm not quite sure how Heizer did it. The immense weight probably helps, the low bore axis probably does too, and the grip doesn't have any sharp corners to dig into my hands. Again, it's unpleasant, but it's less unpleasant than some 380s I've shot, and that's a real feat. There were problems though. Take a look at my very first shots ever through the gun. I'm getting malfunctions, the trigger isn't resetting. Turns out it's the grip safety messing with me. I'm pulling the trigger, the gun recoils, it shifts around in my hand a little bit, the grip safety comes away from my fingers. Then when I let the trigger forward, it gets hung up. It can't reset all the way unless the grip safety is fully depressed. You could call this user error, but I don't entirely agree. Take a look at how my fingers wrap around the gun. Because the grip has got this long and thin shape, my fingers naturally want to bend right in front of the safety, which creates a gap. And then when my support hand comes in for a squeeze, that tightens the bend in that particular knuckle and it doubles the effect. It also doesn't help that the spring on the grip safety is a little springier than it could be, helping push my fingers away from it. It's not hard for me to make myself depress the grip safety all the way, it's just a little unnatural. I could train on it, but it seems like the sort of thing that's easy to goof under pressure, and that's not what I want in a carry gun. If your fingers are a different length, you may not have this problem, but for me, it's a concern. Once I figured out the grip safety issue, the gun ran better, but I still had a couple more malfunctions. There were some failures to lock open when empty that might have been down to my fingers again. If you ride that safety hard, which is what people are often taught to do to make sure it's off, then your thumb is basically in the perfect position to interfere with the slide stop. It seems like a basic failure of ergonomics to me. I had a couple other failures to lock open that weren't down to my fingers, and one failure to feed. The manual says the gun has a break-in period of about 200 rounds. I think that's true. The malfunctions did go away with hot ammo, and they decreased over time, which is a clue that the gun might be breaking in. In my opinion, guns shouldn't need break-in periods, but this one seemingly does. No issue with hollow points, but my round count is low, and most of it was ball ammo, so don't take my word for it, always test your carry ammo. Couple more quirks to mention. A live trigger can actually get pinned behind the grip safety. Watch this. Press the grip safety, pull the trigger partially, let go of the grip safety, trigger then gets stuck halfway pressed and is still pullable. This could bite a shooter with bad habits. Maybe you're at the range, you take a breather, you let go of the trigger and the grip safety in the wrong order, then you pick it back up again, you assume the grip safety is still protecting you, but it's definitely not. It's one of many reasons why I don't think anyone should get in the habit of relying on safeties. Another thing I noticed, this ambi safety only takes a little bit of movement before it will allow a trigger press. I'm talking only a quarter of this red mark has to be visible. Also, if the hammer isn't cocked, then the safety will prevent you from racking the slide, but if the hammer is cocked, it won't. Do with that what you will. So who is this gun for? What sort of person chooses this over the popular carry guns of the last couple decades? I suspect it's somebody who believes the 45 ACP cartridge is so powerful the capacity doesn't matter. One shot will do it. I think it's somebody who's never carried concealed much, certainly not on a daily basis, so he perceives the weight not as a downside, but as a sign of quality. I think he thinks red dots are a gimmick. I think he thinks appendix carry is dangerous. You'll blow your drunk off. So he sticks to the traditional 3 o'clock position where printing is a big problem and thinness helps. In other words, this gun is for the sort of FUD who fetishizes the 1911, holding onto an obsolescent cartridge, obsolescent sights, and obsolescent holsters. In fact, at SHOT Show 2018, a Heizer rep essentially admitted as much, saying that the number one buyer for this gun is a 1911 fan who wants to carry something tighter to the body. I guess there are a few buyers out there like that, but the rest of the world is moving on to better things. In sum, this gun appeals to an ever-shrinking niche audience. It's quirky, it has some issues, and it's about double the price of its competitors with an MSRP in the upper 3 digits. No wonder you haven't heard of it. I wondered how popular these things are, so I looked all over the internet, and I couldn't find a single one with a 4-digit serial number. The highest I've seen was in the 800s. So I'm guessing they made maybe 1,000 of these tops, and that might be all there will ever be because I suspect it might have helped put Heizer out of business. As of now, their website is still up, but it looks to me like distributors have been out of stock of all of their guns for a long time now. I've tried to get a hold of Heizer every which way, phone, email, social media. I get nothing. I hope I'm wrong, but I wouldn't bet on it. That's it from Gunbelievable on the PKO-45 from Heizer Defense. Smash that like button, make sure to subscribe. If I get 1 million subs, I'll review a gun that's actually good.